Foghorn and the recorder.
And it just recorded that.
Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study of the portion or the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow it along. Tonight's recap will start on page 136 where it says among many employers, and will end on page 139, salvaging their sick employees. And our study portion tonight will start on page 139, if you desire to help, and end on page 142, has helped many of us. And do we have any announcements?
Good evening, family. My name's Jamie. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. And Donald, would you kindly let people in the room tonight? Thank you. We have a pre-conference report coming up with our delegate, and I will put the information in the chat at some point in the meeting. We're going to do it hybrid. Since you guys are part of this group, you are welcome to join us and see what the things we have to discuss and ask questions and so on. That is going to be Saturday morning from 11 a.m. to, I don't know, 3-4 hours later, whatever it is. But I think that's when it's going to, maybe it's going to start at 1. I'll put the flyer in the chat for you. We have Group Conscience coming up next Monday night at 6:30 Central Time, so whatever your perspective time zone is. If you are a home group member, registered home group member, we certainly hope to see you there and hear your voice. If you're not a home group member, but you'd like to see how we operate the group, you are more than welcome to come and join us. You won't have a vote. Only home group members of record prior to the group conscience will be able to vote, but you're welcome to come see how we do business. And Trish put that in the chat. However, that being said, if you like what we have to offer here at Primary Purpose and you would like to become a home group member, just let Trish know and she will get you added to the rolls. And then on the 28th, I will be going to Area 64 Assembly. And while I am no longer GSR of the group, I will be representing the group in a fashion along with the other 6 groups in District 40 as DCM. So the group's voice will still get carried. It just won't have a GSR to go to the mic and make a vote. So that's what I got for you on that. Now, on with the show. And again, good evening, family. My name is Jamie. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. Welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation, followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are sharing as to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
And from the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And now we'll invite the monks in to do what the monks do so well. So enjoy your time with God, folks. Thank you. And our family's Foglight prayer on the screen in front of you for those of you who wish to join us. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Lisa.
Let me get there we go.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. And I've asked John to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, John.
My name is John and I am a recovered alcoholic. Excuse me. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind, rather than in his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, John. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our big book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our big book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
We got a couple of people out there.
Welcome,
Amy,
everybody.
Welcome. And the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
I don't see any.
If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo or PayPal, posted in chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in the chat. Thank you and see you next week.
thank you, Lisa. Good to have you with us tonight. And John, thank you for your service as well. Hang on, I'm running a little behind. Got lots of multitasking going on tonight, folks. Let me get to my part here. From chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 6. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 7. Please refer to page 562 of our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and come on in, Art. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. In Tradition 7, the short form reads, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting through declining outside contributions. In the long form, the AA groups themselves ought to be fully supported by the voluntary contributions of their own members. We think that each group should soon achieve this ideal, that any public solicitation of funds using the name of Alcoholics Anonymous is highly dangerous, whether by groups, clubs, hospitals, or other outside agencies. That acceptance of large gifts from any source or of contributions carrying any obligation whatever is unwise. And 2, we view with much concern those AA treasuries which continue beyond prudent reserves to accumulate funds for no stated AA purpose. Experience has often warned us that nothing can so surely destroy our spiritual heritage as futile disputes over property, money, and authority. So, how does that apply to each group? Well, we don't do fundraisers. We don't accumulate money that we don't have any stated purpose for, other than prudent reserve, which is generally considered to be, depending on the group, 3 to 6 months of operating expenses. Now, for some groups, that's not very much, and for some other groups, it's a sizable amount. And whatever we collect and accumulate beyond that prudent reserve amount, we have a suggested formula for deciding what to do with that money. But the group can do whatever they want with it, so long as it goes to a stated AA purpose. It's generally suggested that we send some to our local central office, and some goes to the area, and some goes to GSO. You can split that up any kind of way you want, and you don't have to contribute to every one of those entities. In fact, I know a number of groups that come up with their own formula. And my home group, they change it with each contribution. So sometimes we look at the needs of the various entities and make a decision of how much of our contributions will go to each one. Sometimes those other entities are not in any need of contributions. They have extra money themselves that they have to pass on to somewhere, in which case we don't give them any more. Other times we have central office, for example, might have, I remember a couple of times when the central office had a particular need. They had to replace some computer hardware, and they had to do some other renovations in the office, and so we contributed a greater amount to them at that point. But it's up to the group to divide it up however they want. I've also been involved with groups that didn't have anything to send out. They didn't even meet their basic responsibilities of paying rent to the church for a room, or buying coffee and refreshments. And in those cases, oftentimes the churches will make exceptions and not force a rent payment, and don't kick us out because we can't pay the rent. But when you have only 3 or 4, sometimes 5 or 6 people showing up at each meeting, it's kind of hard to collect enough money to pay the rent, let alone buy coffee. So sometimes somebody will donate coffee. Sometimes the church will allow us to pay less than what was originally agreed upon. And sometimes we just have to find another place to meet because we have to, you know. And sometimes those groups that don't have sufficient financial contributions coming in have to disband. And that's a sad thing. And it should never have to happen because of money, but it does. And that's part of our seventh tradition. I've also been in groups where we pass the seventh tradition basket, and there are maybe 12 people in the room, and they'll collect $15, and I know that I put 10 of it in. So among those 11 other people in attendance, they collected $5 among 10 of them, which is not you know, who am I to judge? I mean, I put in what I feel is appropriate for me, and each one has to do that too. Now, sometimes folks just don't have any, but more often I see people depending on the rest of the group to finance the group's expenses. But when we go out for coffee after the meeting, they always have enough for a cup of coffee. I guess maybe sometimes somebody is buying it for them. I don't know. Who am I to judge that? But this tradition is it's important for us to understand that even though we have no dues or fees for AA membership, we do have expenses, and we rely upon the generosity of our members to meet those expenses. So that's about all I have for that one. We'll see you next week with Tradition 8.
Thank you, Art. Grateful you are with us tonight. And now it is time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things we often hear is that there are no musts in the book, and I believe that Gandalf the Red Pickle is going to come in and share that with us tonight.
Good day, good evening, good afternoon, all that kind of good stuff. My name is Donald, and I am the Red Pickle, Gandalf, and I found a must in the book. Well, actually, somebody pointed it out to me. It's on page 74. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it.
Thank
That's what I got.
Thank you, brother.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Clip of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we're going to start our recap on page... I lost it. On page 136, and that will be read tonight by Nancy. And that will be followed by our study portion, which will be read by Terry. After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back on our study portion read by Terry. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we are going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the question gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point, we didn't just wake up today and think that we were just going to go to a random page in the family afterward. This is a 94-week book study from beginning to end. It started a little over 5 years ago here in my house. In April, we'll be celebrating 5 years on Zoom. And we've been doing it the way we do it tonight for the entire tour of duty. We are in our 3rd season and our 5th year of it. Takes us about a year and a half to go through the study. We start at the title page, and my God, these people won't stop. We start at the title page where we find our first promise, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. We use this question format through the preface, all of the forewords, which lead us to the doctor's opinion. And the doctor's opinion tells us 3 vitally important things about our disease. 1, that we have a spiritual malady. 2, that we have a physical allergy that sets on the phenomenon of craving. And 3, that we have a mental obsession. After we get through the doctor's opinion, we get the classic 12-step call from Bill's story from there, and we try and find the places that we can relate where maybe we drank like Bill. And all of this is part of step 1. Then we move into step 2. There is a solution, and it shows us that there is a solution, and it tells us a little more about the nature of everything. Then from there we move into chapter 3, more about alcoholism, which is really about 2 things and 2 things only. About the mental obsession and untreated alcoholism. From there we go into probably the greatest piece of literature on the planet, the chapter to the agnostic, and what it becomes is it becomes a pathway to letting go of old ideas and old beliefs and opening our hearts and mind to new ideas and new beliefs. And then we get into how it works. And the only thing, while we have the full presentation of the steps and how it works, the only thing that how it works tells us is how to take steps 3 and 4. It gives us the prayers that we'll use, the actions we'll take, and shows us the promises that will result from saying the prayers and taking the actions. And then next we move into chapter 6, into action. And in 16 short pages, it takes us through the next 7 steps and takes us through step 11. And then after that, we go into the chapter working with others. And then the 3, which is the great guideline for sponsorship. And then we go into the pre-Al-Anon chapters, the family afterwards. To the wives, the family afterwards, and to the chapter that we are currently in, which is to the employers. So maybe you will hear something that resonates, that you can see yourself in your life or in your past, that you can relate with yourself and employers. So thanks for being with us, and we're glad you're here.
Thanks, Jamie. Before the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. And just a reminder, please be aware that the first hour and a half of the meeting will be recorded so we can put it onto our website and onto our YouTube channel. So with that, Nancy, could you come on in with our recap, please?
There you go, Nancy Alcoholic. Chapter 10 to employers. Among many employers nowadays, we think of one member who has spent much of his life in the world of big business. He has hired and fired hundreds of men. He knows the alcoholic as the employer sees him. His present views are exceptionally useful to businessmen everywhere. But let him tell you, I was at one time assistant manager of a corporation department, employing 6,600 men. One day, my secretary came in saying that Mr. B insisted on speaking with me. I told her to say that I was not interested. I had warned him several times that he had but one more chance. Not long afterward, he had called me from Hartford on 2 successive days. So drunk he could hardly speak. I told him he was through, finally and forever. My secretary returned to say that it was not Mr. B on the phone. It was Mr. B's brother, and he wished to give me a message. I still expected a plea for clemency, but these words came through the receiver. I just wanted to tell you, Paul, Paul jumped from the hotel window in Hartford last Saturday. He left us a note saying you were the best boss he ever had, and that you were not to blame in any way. Another time, as I opened a letter, which lay on my desk, a newspaper clipping fell out. It was obituary of one of the best salesmen I ever had. After 2 weeks of drinking, he had placed his toes on the trigger of a loaded gun. The barrel was in his mouth. I had discharged him for drinking 6 weeks before. It's still another experience. A woman's voice came faintly over long distance from Virginia. She wanted to know if her husband's company insurance was still in force. 4 days before he had hanged himself in his woodshed, I had been obliged to discharge him for drinking. Though he was brilliant, alert, and one of the best organizers I had ever known. Here were 3 exceptional men lost to this world because I did not understand alcoholism as I do now. What irony! I became an alcoholic myself, but for the intervention of an understanding person, I might have followed in their footsteps. My downfall cost the business community unknown thousands of dollars, for it takes real money to train a man for an executive position. This kind of waste goes on unabated. We think the business fabric is shot through with the situation, which might be helped by better understanding all around. Nearly every modern employer feels a moral responsibility for the well-being of his health, and he tries to meet these responsibilities. That he has not always done so for the alcoholic is easily understood. To him, the alcoholic has often seemed a fool of the first magnitude. Because of the employee's special ability, or of his own strong personal attachment to him, the employer has sometimes kept such a man at work long before a reasonable period. Some employers have tried every known remedy. In only a few instances Has there been a lack of patience and tolerance? And we, who we have imposed on the best of employers, can blame them if they have been short with us. Here, for instance, is a typical example. An officer of one of the largest banking institutions in America knows no longer I no longer drink. One day he told me about an executive of the same bank who, for his description, was undoubtedly alcoholic. This seemed to me like an opportunity to be helpful. So I spent 2 hours talking about alcoholism, the malady, and described the symptoms and results as well as I could. His comment was very interesting, but I'm sure this man is done drinking. He has just returned from a 3 month leave of absence, has taken a cure, looks fine, and to clinch the matter, the board of directors told him this was his last chance. The only answer I could make was that if the man followed the usual pattern, he would go on the bigger bus than ever. I felt this was inevitable and wondered if the bank was doing the man injustice. Why not bring him to contact with some of our alcoholic club? He might have a chance. I pointed out that I had had nothing to drink whatever for 3 years, and this in the face of difficulties that would have made 9 out of 10 men drink their heads off. Why not at least afford him an opportunity to hear my story? Oh no, said my friend. This chap is either through with liquor or he is minus the job. If he has your willpower and guts, he will make the grade. I wanted to throw up my hands in discouragement, for I was that I had failed to help my banker friend understand. He simply could not believe that his brother executive suffered from the serious illness. This was nothing to do but wait. There was nothing to do but wait. Presently, a man did slip and was fired. Following his discharge, we contacted him. Without much ado, he accepted the principles and procedures that had helped us. He is undoubtedly on the road to recovery. To me, this incident illustrates lack of understanding as to what really ails the alcoholic, and lack of knowledge is to what part employers might profitably take in salvaging their sick employees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And Terry, come on in with our study portion for tonight.
Hi, I'm Terry, recovered alcoholic, aka Pickle Chips. If you desire to help, it might be well to disregard your own drinking or lack of it. Whether you are a hard drinker, a moderate drinker, or a teetotaler, you may have some pretty strong opinions, perhaps prejudices. Those who drink moderately may be more annoyed with the alcoholic than a total abstainer would be. Drinking occasionally and understanding your own reactions is possible for you to become quite sure of many things which, so far as the alcoholic is concerned, are not always so. As a moderate drinker, you could take your liquor or leave it alone. Whether you want to, whenever you want to, you can control your drinking. Of an evening, you can go on a mild bender, get up in the morning, shake your head, and go to business. To you, liquor is no real problem. You cannot see why it should be to anyone else save the spineless and stupid. When dealing with an alcoholic, there may be natural annoyance, and a man could be so weak, stupid, and irresponsible. Even when you understand the malady better, you may feel this feeling rising. A look at the alcoholic in your organization is many times illuminating. Is he not usually brilliant, fast-thinking, imaginative, and likable? When sober, does he not work hard and have a knack for getting things done? If he had these qualities and did not drink, would he be worth retaining? Should he have the same consideration as other ailing employees? Is he worth salvaging? If your decision is yes, whether the reason be humanitarian or business or both, then the following suggestions may be helpful. Can you disregard the feeling that you are dealing only with habit, with stubbornness, or weak will? If this presents difficulty, rereading chapters 2 and 3, where the alcoholic sickness is discussed at length, might be worthwhile. You, as a businessman, want to know the necessities before considering the result. If you concede that your employer is ill, can he be forgiven for what he has done in the past? Can his past absurdities be forgotten? Can it be appreciated that he has been a victim of crooked thinking, directly caused by the action of alcohol on his brain? I well remember the shock I received when a prominent doctor in Chicago told me of cases where pressure of the spinal fluid actually ruptured the brain. No wonder an alcoholic is strangely irrational. Who wouldn't be with such a fevered brain? Normal drinkers are not so affected, nor can they understand the aberrations of the alcoholic. Your man has probably been trying to conceal a number of scrapes, perhaps pretty messy ones. They may be disgusting. You may be at a loss to understand how such a seemingly above-board chap could be so involved. But these scrapes can generally be charged, no matter how bad, to the abnormal action of alcohol in his mind. When drinking or getting over a bout, an alcoholic sometimes, the model of honesty when normal, will do incredible things. Afterward, his revulsion will be terrible. Nearly always, these antics indicate nothing more than temporary condition. This is not to say that all alcoholics are honest and upright when not drinking. Of course that isn't so, and such people often may impose on you. Seeing your attempt to understand and help, some men will try to take advantage of your kindness. If you are sure your man does not want to stop, he may as well be discharged. The sooner the better. You are not doing him a favor by keeping him on. Firing such an individual may prove a blessing to him. It may be just the jolt he needs. I know in my own particular case that nothing my company could have done would have stopped me, so as long as I was able to hold my position, I could not possibly realize how serious my situation was. Had they fired me first, and had they taken steps to see that I was presented with a solution contained in this book, I might have returned to them 6 months later, a well man. But there are many men who want to stop, and with them you could go far. Your understanding treatment of their cases will pay dividends. Perhaps you have such a man in mind. He wants to quit drinking and you want to help him, even if it be only a matter of good business. You now know more about alcoholism. You can see that he is mentally and physically sick. You are willing to overlook his past performances. Suppose an approach is made something like this. State that you know about his drinking and then it must stop. You might say that you appreciate his abilities, would like to keep him, but cannot if he continues to drink. A firm attitude at this point has helped many of us.
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to go back to where Terry started reading and reread in our question and answer format. And for our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. And I'll ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers will be sentence by sentence, coming directly out of the part that Terry just read. And if those answering the questions lose their place, please allow me to direct them back to the correct place so we don't have 4 or 5 of us all trying to talk to them at the same time. Her, him, whoever. But our batting order tonight will be Penny, Linda, Nancy, John, William, and Lisa. So Kenny, coming to you with the first question. For the employer who wants to help, what is the first thing he should do?
If you desire to help, it might be well to disregard your own drinking or lack of it.
Thank you. And Linda, regardless of what type of a drinker you are, your thinking may well be what?
Whether you are a hard drinker, a moderate drinker, or a teetotaler, you may have some pretty strong opinions, perhaps prejudices.
And I'm coming in with the only comment for this evening, so you won't have to hear too much out of me. The comment is this: you can review different types of alcoholics in the doctor's opinion. There's a solution on page 20 and in the chapter to wives on pages 108 through 110.
Thank you, Jamie. And moving on to Nancy. What type of drinker is usually the most annoyed with the alcoholic?
Those who drink moderately may be more annoyed with the alcoholic than a total abstainer would be.
Thank you. And John, the moderate drinker, understands his reaction to alcohol, which will produce some fixed ideas that are what for the alcoholic?
Drinking occasionally and understanding your own reactions. It is possible for you to become quite sure of many things which, so far as the alcoholic is concerned, are not always so.
Thank you so much. And William, what can the moderate drinker do?
As a moderate drinker, you can take your liquor or leave it alone.
So true. And Lisa, our seashell pickle, how does the moderate drinker handle his drinking?
Whenever you want to, you control your drinking.
Thank you. And Kenny, back to you. On a given evening, the moderate drinker can drink to excess and do what the next morning?
Of an evening, you can go on a mile bender, get up in the morning, shake your head, and go to business.
Thank you. And Linda, what is liquor to the moderate alcoholic or the moderate drinker?
To you, liquor is no problem.
Thank you. And Nancy, what is the moderate drinker unable to see?
You cannot see why it should be to anyone else, save the spineless and stupid.
Thank you. And John, coming back to you, when moderate drinkers deal with alcoholics, there is a natural reaction to feel that the alcoholic is what?
When dealing with an alcoholic, there may be a natural annoyance that a man could be so weak, stupid, and irresponsible.
Thank you. William, will this get better as the moderate drinker has a better understanding of alcoholism?
Even when you understand the knowledge better, you may feel this is you may feel this feeling arising.
Thank you. And Linda, or Lisa, how will it strike you as you look at an alcoholic in your organization?
A look at the alcoholic in your organization is many times illuminating.
Thanks so much. And Kenny, what qualities would you normally find?
Is he not usually a brilliant, fast-thinking, imaginative, and likable?
Thank you. Linda, when he is sober, how does he perform?
When sober, does he not work hard and have a knack of getting things done?
Thank you. And Nancy, if he didn't drink, what would he be worth?
If he had these qualities and didn't drink, would be worth retaining.
Thank you. And John, how about other sick employees?
Should he have the same consideration as other ailing employees.
Thank you so much. William, what question must be answered?
Is he worth salary?
Thank you. Very important. And Lisa, if the answer is yes, then what do we have for the employer?
If your decision is yes, whether the reason be humanitarian or business or both, then the following suggestions may be helpful.
And Kenny, back to you. First, what question must be answered?
Can you discard the feelings that you are dealing only with habit, with stubbornness, or a weak will?
You. And Linda, a two-part question. A, if the question is difficult to answer, what should the employer do? And B, why might that help?
If this presents difficulty, rereading chapters 2 and 3, where the alcoholic sickness is discussed at length, might be worthwhile.
So much. And Nancy, as a businessman, what should come first?
You, as a businessman, want to know the necessities before considering the result.
Absolutely. And John, if he can concede that the person is sick, what is the next step?
If you concede that your employee is ill, can he be forgiven for what he has done in the past?
Thank you. And William, how should his past be considered?
If I got a communication, can his past be absurdities be forgotten?
Yeah. And Lisa, can you accept the reality of the victim of alcoholism?
Can it be appreciated that he has been a victim of crooked thinking, directly caused by the action of alcohol on his brain?
Yes. And Kenny, what information coming from a doctor shocked Hank?
I well remember the shock I received when a prominent doctor in Chicago told me of cases where pressure of the spinal fluid actually ruptured the brain.
Yes. And Linda, what could that explain? 2 sentences, please.
No wonder an alcoholic is strangely irrational. Who wouldn't be, with such a fevered brain?
Correct. And Nancy, how are normal drinkers affected?
Normal drinkers are not so affected, nor can they understand the adorations of the alcoholic.
Thank you. And John, what has your man probably been trying to do?
Your man has probably been trying to conceal a number of scrapes, perhaps pretty messy ones.
So true. And William, some may even be what?
They may be discussion.
Thank you. And Lisa, what may you be at a loss to understand?
You may be at a loss to understand how such a seemingly above-board chap could be so involved.
You. Kenny, to what can these incidents be attributed?
But these scrapes can generally be charged, no matter how bad, to the abnormal actions of alcohol on his mind.
Thank you. And Linda, when under the influence, what will an alcoholic sometimes do?
When drinking or getting over about, an alcoholic sometimes, the model of honesty, when normal, will do incredible things.
So true. And Nancy, afterward, how will he be?
Afterward, his reversion would be terrible.
Thank you. And John, most of the time, these incidents are what?
Nearly always, these antics indicate nothing more than temporary conditions.
Thank you. William, this is not to say what?
This is not to say that alcoholics are honest and upright when not drinking.
Thank you. And Lisa, what may this kind of person do?
Of course, that isn't so, and such people often impose on you.
Thank you. Kenny, what will some people do when they see you trying to help them?
See your attempt to understand and help some men will try to take advantage of your kindness.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And Brenda, if you believe he is not sincere in his desire to quit drinking, you should do what?
Where we at? I lost it.
If you are sure, towards the top of 141. Sixth sentence.
If you are sure your man does not want to stop, he may as well be discharged. The sooner the better.
Thank you. And John, what is it you are not doing for him?
You are not doing him a favor by keeping him on.
Thank you. And William, losing his job may prove to be what?
Find such an individual may prove to be a lesson to him.
So true. And Lisa, what may it give him?
It may be just the jolt he needs.
Thank you. And Kenny, what did the author know about himself as long as he had a job?
I know in my own particular case that nothing my company could have done would have stopped me for so long as I was able to hold my position.
Keep going.
I could not possibly realize how serious my situation was.
You. And Linda, what action could his employer have taken that might have made a big difference in his life?
Had they fired me first, and had they fired me first, and had they then taken steps to see that I was presented with the solution contained in this book, I might have returned to them 6 months later, a well man.
You. And Nancy, but what about the ones who really want to stop drinking?
But there are many men who want to stop, and with them you can go far.
Thank you. And John, what can pay dividends for them?
Your understanding treatment of their cases will pay dividends.
Thank you. William, maybe you already have what?
Perhaps you already have such a man in mind.
Thank you. And Lisa, what made you both want?
He wants to quit drinking and you want to help him, even if it be only a matter of good business.
Thank you. Penny, what do you now know? 2 sentences, please.
You now know more about alcoholism. You can see that he is mentally and physically sick.
Thank you. Linda, what are you now willing to do? And read the rest of the paragraph.
You are willing to overlook his past performances. Suppose an approach is made, something like this.
You. Nancy, to make your initial approach, what can you tell him you know?
State that you know about his drinking and that it must stop.
Thank you. And John, a 3-part question. A, you might also say you appreciate his what. B, also you would like to do what. And C, but under what condition?
You might say you appreciate his abilities, would like to keep him, but cannot if he continues to drink.
Perfect. Thank you. And William, our last question of the night. What sort of attitude is best?
Formality at this point has helped many of us.
Yes, it has.
And
So thank you to our answer readers. You can go ahead and put your hands down and remute. And for everyone, if you have experience with the portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share with us. And please be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. We're now open for comments, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what we just read. And Lisa, is your hand still up or are you commenting? Okay, I'll put it down and Larry, come on in.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. I think back on my working days. I was kept on. I worked construction, and I worked construction where they had to train us for 2 or so weeks before we actually went to work for the job, and that training was expensive. It cost. They paid us, which was over, most of the time it was $1,500 to $2,000, for the 2 weeks, and straight time, and so they invested that money in us to train us for the job, and so when we got on the job, some of us was foremen, and some of it, there were times that I was general foreman even, and but I had a drinking problem, and there were times that I was hid. There were times that they sent me home for a number of reasons. There were 2 reasons. One, they thought I was valuable, and 2, they didn't have time to train somebody else because it was a short job, and 3, it was a cost plus job. In other words, when they sent me home, they also paid me, because the more bodies that they had on the job any particular day made money for the company that I worked for. I know that that's not honest, but it wasn't me that was paying me, but I did it also for the company because that's what I was told to do for men that I sent home. So, I did the exact same thing because it was cost plus. They had to have so many men on the job every day in order to keep a quota up, so that the company would get paid the money that they was supposed to get paid for that day. So there was extremities, and so I worked years like that, where I was hid, where I was covered for, where and the type of work that I did. There were jobs that when they put restrictions on us that cut into my addictions, I drug up. I quit, and went without pay. Even there were times that I didn't get unemployment and just went without pay because I would rather have my addictions than to be paid. And sometimes I was lucky enough to get on a layoff in time, knowing the layoff was coming up, and I chose a layoff so that because there was restrictions going on. So my life was, money was not the primary purpose that drove me to addictions drove me. Addictions was more important to me. Of course, I was making more than the average paycheck, and I had money tucked away, of course, but I had no intention of stopping the drinking because I always seemed to find work. I always seemed to work, and they weren't going to let me go. It wasn't until at the end of my career that I actually got serious, and when I finally got hurt and had to quit work, what happened was I drank. I drank more. I drank too much. The drinking got so far out of hand that I had to get help. I was out of control completely. Nobody wanted to be with me. Nobody could stand me any longer when I wasn't working because the drinking was so far out of control. And had I not been forced out of work, I don't know if I would have ever chosen to quit drinking and drugging. I was one of those people that this chapter talked about. I'm Larry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Thank you, Larry. And Linda, come on in.
My name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. I love this part in the big book, A Letter to Employers. And because of this letter to employers, it has helped quite a bit companies, businesses, dealing with their employees that are alcoholics. But because of the ADA, American Disability Act, you cannot terminate a person because they have acute alcoholism. You cannot. You can't deny them employment. You can't fire them if it is in their present or their past. There's laws that protect persons with what they say, AUD and an SUD, substance abuse, and then also alcoholism abuse. So people are not being terminated the way they used to, and people have gone away to, rehab. They go on the FMLA, Family Medical Leave, and the employer cannot touch them. They cannot touch them. But I know that when I had a sponsor, when I first came in, she said that she was sent away. She worked for the phone company. And, the telephone company has so many different names. Now it's Verizon. When I was a kid, it was Marbell, it has so many different names. But she said that they said, we will send you away one time. They said, after that, we will fire you. I keep saying that word fire. We will terminate you if you come back with dirty urine or if you come back drunk. Because she had a problem with both. And she said she got sober real quick. She said that was the wake-up call. She's retired now from that company, but she said that that company told her that. And then this man that I know, he was a manager and he worked at Con Edison. And he had a problem with substances. And they told him, they said, we know you have a problem. You're a very good manager. You're very productive. We really need you, but we don't need your antics. I remember he said that. I remember he said that. And he said that they told him the same thing. We're going to send you away. We're going to pay for it. And if you come back and you start your stuff again, you will be terminated. So you're given a chance. You are given a chance. And from what I understand, people in AA tell me that people in AA that have worked for the HR department, they said the policy is that you're supposed to tell the employer right away, really quickly. You can't wait months and months. Oh, I'm an alcoholic. This is why I'm, not coming into work. You have to tell them right away. You have, I forgot what one guy said. You have X amount of days, probably like 24 hours, but you have to tell them very quickly, to save yourself from being terminated, and so that you can get the help that you need. And quite a bit people have gotten sober because, their job, offered them the help and they did stay sober. Some people didn't. They came back with, dirty urine or alcohol, they can give you a blood test, and I think it's in the liver, and they see how much alcohol is in you, and then, no, you got to go. And they hit their bottom a different way, but I know I was one of them people that I got fired due to drinking and other substances. I keep saying the word fire, but I got terminated, and it was from a very good state job, and I was in my 20s. I'm in my 60s now. Imagine if I would have retired, I would have had a pension, I would have had everything. But because I was so young and so dumb, they told me, they said, we're tired of your SHIT. We're tired of it. And everybody here is tired of it. And you're getting ready to get fired. and I got fired. I got terminated. I did, And even it doesn't make a difference that I sued them and I won. They still didn't want me back. They said, you can have your settlement, but you will not come back here, And could you imagine? It was from an agency that enforces human rights. And they had the nerve to fire me. Had I known what I knew now, I would have got a lawyer and I would have sued them and got my job back. But I didn't know too much when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? And I got terminated after 3 months of being clean and sober. They said, no, that's it. Your track record. Even though I was coming in early and I was doing my work, for whatever reason, they just let me go. You know what I'm saying? And, I share this with my sponsees that, guess what? Because of the wreckage of your past, this can make you lose your position. I want to say this real fast. I have a family member. He had a very good job at Columbia, and he lost his position because of his alcoholism and his drug abuse. He graduated. He was incarcerated, and he came out. He found this program. They gave him a job. They sent him to school. He didn't even have to pay for his school because he was an employee. This was a dream come true for anybody coming out of being incarcerated. And this person got drunk, they got high, they went back to all their behavior. And when that contract was over, they said, okay, we're not gonna keep you on, we're gonna let you go. You have your degree, thank you, goodbye. And I wanted to tell a person, do you know that you were let go because of your alcoholism? But they're very difficult and they're very stubborn, so they got to hit their bottom their own way. But me and everybody else in the family knows that's the reason why they let them go. And it would have been a damn good job. But, this is what alcoholism does. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Linda. William, come on in.
My name is William Alcoholic. Just to say hello to everybody. In the conclusion of my sharing last week, I said to be continued. What I was thinking to be continued was different than what my conscience said. And I made a statement, and I talked about my the first 12 step, and I talked about alcoholism. And I said something like this: some have to die in order for others to live. And may be true, may not be true, but it was no empathy or sympathy in there, which I have learned since I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and have a tactic feeling for an alcoholic, somebody that can make their own sickness. And so I do apologize for that. And I talked about the guy who 12-step, the Caucasian guy. Later on, I found that guy. He lived in the same world that I did. And he was an alcoholic. And whenever I went to his home group, they had activities outside of the group, and they invited me to everything, man. And one of the things, they used to go to picnics and everything, because I was young then, and I thought I still had a whole lot of parties, so they had a whole lot of activity going on for the young people in Alcoholics Anonymous. So one of the activities that they had was playing wall game with paint colors, what I mean? So, I just want to clear that, because my conscience got me after I shared it. I thought about what I said, so I just want to clear that up a little bit. That, really, I hope nobody misunderstood what I said tonight. I just want to clear that up. And I do identify with what we read today, And the reason why I understand what we read today, because I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous, I've read the literature, heard other people share, But when I was out there, I was sick. I did not understand what was going on, And I thought I had willpower. I worked over 40-some years before I retired. Never lost a job. I remember one of my managers said, and I didn't understand then. He said, I made a drink on the job one time, but sometimes I had been drinking the night before, stuff like that. And one of the managers said, and I heard him say, he said they had a nickname for me. They called me Sandman. He said, if you don't mess with Sandman, he'll do the work of 5 people. But if you say something to him, he ain't gonna do nothing, So I had that type of attitude. So people never lost a job, always invited me back. Somebody seen me say, you want to work for me and stuff like that. So I understand that alcohol is very very ambitious, very what you call the people when they sober, you know. And I understand about disease and analogy and all that stuff that have you know, all those attitudes and stuff. You know what I mean? And if you're not drinking, you're an easy person to get along with. You know, so I'm grateful today that I'm in a place where all this stuff is being made clear to me. You know what I mean? And the reason why I did took that chance, you know, and I wouldn't have vowed to tell nobody really what was going on with me. And because of I had a military background, a top secret military background. So my job, which was a safe and sensitive job, they sent a memo around, said, if you have a problem with alcohol or drugs, call your UAP and management won't know anything about it. You got to take a chance with that. And that's when I began to come into know about 12-step program. Did I get sober right away? No, I did not. You know, when I was 1989, I didn't get sober till 1992. You know, and I'm grateful to God that He brought me to a place so He could save me from me. You know what I mean? Because really, if you look at the reality of it, nobody find you find yourself. Nobody want to carry their weight around. You know, they may have some empathy or sympathy for you for something that they see in you. If you can't see it, if I didn't see it in myself, I would be happy. It's useless. So I'm glad all this information is today. So people to save, give them a chance to sort of get your life together. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, William. Glad you're here tonight. Hi, John.
Hi, my name is John, and I am a recovered alcoholic. Great to be here. Great to be sober. Extremely grateful to be at a meeting that people understand how my brain thinks, because for this alcoholic, it truly is a thinking problem. Drinking is just a symptom. This chapter, you know, I'm over the road truck driver, and I know that there's other truck drivers in this program, and you know, I'm so grateful that because of random drug tests every month, if that and whatever else, you know, because I'm held to a higher standard of professionalism as driving down the road. But you know, this chapter rings so much to me on two sides of the coin, and the reason why I say that is because when I crawled back into these rooms, I was the employer and I was the employee. And what I wish that, and maybe it's further into the chapter, I haven't read it for a while, but it is what I really truly wish that the chapter would entail is not only just the drinking aspect of this, but also truly the thinking. Because as an over-the-road truck driver, professional truck driver, I was extremely suicidal, and gosh, you know, I look back today, reading this chapter and some of the questions that I had to answer. It just really set home with me, right? And because I'm still my own boss, and I own the company, and I'm the only employee, and so you know, I don't foresee myself growing the business, but someday maybe I will, because of a sober alcoholic. I can possibly start something else and have something for my family and be there for my family and for others. But you know, I'm just a grateful alcoholic, and truly grateful to be able to be a part of it, and just be reminded, if I pick up that first drink, I could, you know, these yets that I'm still eligible about, you know, that I don't have to do that, and I don't have to do this program alone, because it is we program. truly blessed and grateful because of Alcoholics Anonymous and the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, folks, if no one else has told you today that they love you, let me be the first one. I love each and every one of you. I'm John Alcoholic. I'm going to take another God's gift to sobriety. And I wish you join us in that journey.
Thank you, John. Hello, Xavier. Come on in.
Good evening, Xavier Alcoholic. Grateful to be sober. Recovered alcoholic. So I find this chapter interesting. I always have. I've noted in the past I've been on both sides. It's an interesting argument to the employer because it's interesting how it's like. I find it's not talking to the alcoholic. It's not talking to like the spouse or somebody who's an alcoholic. It's talking to an employer. And I see the argument of how it might be really productive for the business to really approach alcoholic employees in a more knowledgeable, like systematic way. It gives a lot of really interesting suggestions, which I really enjoy. Like number one, the understanding part, to learn more about alcoholism. Like it's not a moral failing; it's a disease. The employer can educate themselves. I think inevitably they're going to have alcoholic employees, just statistically, if they have a lot of employees coming in and out. And then I think it's very interesting that it suggests to the employer that they evaluate whether the employee wants to stop drinking. And it says, hey, if they're unwilling, go ahead and fire them. And if they generally want recovery, give them like a structured opportunity to do so. However, they might be dishonest. So the book recommending a structured approach for people that actually want to quit, and noting that that can be beneficial to the employer. It's just an interesting argument. I have very, very mixed feelings. In my personal life, I'm a big believer in just treating everyone equally. What people do in the privacy of their homes is none of my business. I don't personally care. I care about, if they want to work for my particular business, they provide what's expected of them. And if they have shortcomings, like we deal it on an individual basis, I personally see no advantage. And I think it's almost degrading to treat anyone differently because of the particular disease they have. I think it's a person-by-person basis. And I don't believe in like scolding or treating poorly somebody, who happens to be an alcoholic or drug addict, and I don't see the benefit of treating them any better than I would anyone else either. Because I think doing so, it's almost, when I first read this chapter, I was just fired from a judge. This was years ago, and I was mad that she didn't understand I was an alcoholic and she ran drug court. But when her law clerk is what I was at the time relapsed, I thought, well, this judge seems to really understand until it comes to her side of the street. And when her own house is not in order, she freaks out. And what I came to realize later is I'm not a victim. And I was seeing this chapter as allowing me to be some kind of victim. And the reality is I'm not. Like, I chose to do what I did, and I had consequences, and there's cause and effect anywhere. And I used to interpret this chapter where it's asking an employer to treat their alcoholic employees like they're victims. And I don't see the chapters. I don't interpret that now. Instead, I just see suggestions for employers and how it would benefit them. Like any good sales pitch. How's it going to benefit a business if they choose to take these suggestions, understand alcoholism differently, allow people that genuinely want to quit, if you're willing to actually confront them on it, giving them a way to do so. And the result is you're going to have really potentially effective employees that are ideally going to be very loyal. So I think it's a really good sales pitch. And it's a really, really interesting subject. So that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Xavier. Good to see you. Champi, come on in.
Hi, I'm Pickled Chips, recovered, I was going to say retired alcoholic. Well, I'm a retired, recovered alcoholic. I wonder wonder where that came from. Anyway, just real quick, I know half of you have heard this story, but this is for the people that hadn't heard it. Is I worked years ago at a nuclear power plant. I was not in a security position, so don't worry. But I was in the medical department, and I heard through the grapevine that Edison would pay for a 28-day treatment hospital, inpatient. They would pay for it and pay my wages. So I called from a payphone because I didn't want them to track it back to my phone at the power plant. And they told me that, yes, it was all true. There's a catch to it, though. I think it was like $28,000. And I'm just saying that because I know it was a 28-day program. I don't know how much, but it was a whole bunch of money. And they told me that I had to stay sober for 1 year. Can you imagine? 1 year. And I said, thank you very much. And I hung up the phone. There's no way that in my mind that I could imagine being sober for 1 year. But the good news is I did find my way to AA, and I'm firmly convinced that had I done anything 1 iota different, then I might not be here today. So I know my higher power was working for me, and that might not have been a good solution for me. So I always share that when we have this chapter, read this chapter. And as my ex-husband and I had our own electrical contracting business for 6 years, and one of the biggest reasons we failed is we hired every drug addict, alcoholic in Southern California. I don't think we ever had one that wasn't an active alcoholic. And we used to interview them together and put our heads together and go, yes, this is the one. So we just couldn't get it right. So I've never agreed to hire anybody after that. I don't want anything to do with that part. But anyway, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Terry. Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and thank you to all of you being here tonight and sharing and participating and learning and doing what we do so well. I have been on all sides of this. One of the things that I love about this chapter is it not only gets us to look at our employees, but it gets us to look at ourselves as well, and what role we can play. I have been the drunken supervisor, supervising others, and had to let them go. I've also been the sober supervisor, managing other drunks, and had to let them go. The former was very painful because it felt incredibly hypocritical. And I could say things like, but I had a really high tolerance for alcohol, which I did. But, you know, it is what it is. Each and every experience I've ever had is an experience that has led me to right where I am today. And I had to have them, just like Terry, otherwise I might not be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous today. But this chapter also gives us a pathway to help others. Now, Hank was 3 years sober when he wrote this, and this is the only chapter in the book that is not written by Bill himself. It's Hank Parkhurst's story. So, the thing is Hank relapsed at 4 years sober. And I think that it was by group conscience of those who were part of the first 100 that they left this story in the book, because they could have taken it out. But it plays such a vital important role in our relationships with alcoholics, with ourselves, and so on. And I hear people say all the time, oh, the program ends at page 103. That's it. It's done. That's not true. These pre-Al-Anon chapters are all about us learning how to practice a program of recovery in the places where we really live. We don't live in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous 24 hours a day. Now, many of us have been sober for a long time, and we live in the mindset of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous all the waking days of our hours of our day, but we don't live in the rooms because, hey, we can all play nice and play patty cake with each other for an hour or an hour and a half. But oftentimes when we go our separate ways, you see people's true identity because they don't act the same outside of the rooms that they do inside the rooms. So these 3 pre-Al-Anon chapters are all about us learning how to practice everything that we learn how to do in fellowship, in our homes with our families and our children, and in our workplace. I work for a company. If I were to be under the influence, I would be fired immediately, and there's not a darn thing that the Americans with Disability Acts can do to save me from that. Because I've got a federally regulated driver's license. Even though it's a state issue, it's still federally regulated. And I'm driving 80,000 pounds of instant death. I'll tell you something about a big truck. Big truck hits something at 1 mile an hour times 80,000 pounds. It hits it with 80,000 pounds of force. But that same truck hitting something at 65 miles an hour at 80,000 pounds hits it with over 5 million pounds of force. So those of you who like to get out there and mess with big trucks, think twice. Think twice. You know, all of this is part of the solution, folks. And today, we live in a world that they didn't have in the 1940s. Most companies didn't have health insurance plans that would cover treatment and so on. Treatment at this point in history was still not available except for a dry out joint or an asylum. That was generally what the availability was, the sanitariums as they called them back in those days. But today we live and work in a world where it's available. And my employer, who we employ about 700 people, know right up to the CEO that I am a recovered alcoholic and steeped in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous for my recovery, and they know that I am available to help anyone who may have a problem. So, you know, I get the ability to do work, 12-step work in my company, and I have been called into safety before to sit down with the safety manager and other drivers and listen and witness and sometimes ask a few questions and hopefully to provide a solution for that person so that he doesn't lose his livelihood for his family. You know, we look at the book and we go, especially in today's AA, which sometimes I find very annoying because everything wants to change everything about our book. But the truth is, this still has the same effect and impact that it did in 1939 as it does in today's world. The disease hasn't changed. The process of recovering hasn't changed. We have more opportunity to recover through some other areas. But this is not only an important part of our history, it is an important way for us to be helpful. And gosh, I hope we don't sell it short by doing something like wanting to change the language in the book, because that would be really stupid. And on that note, I'll shut up. I apologize for running over.
Thank you, Jamie. And seeing no other hands up, I want to thank everybody for coming, everybody for sharing, everyone who was of service. And I hope to see you all next week. And Jamie, can you read out our closing, please?
I can, I will. It shall be done. And here's another reason I know that our program doesn't end on page 103, because this is where we find our 12-step prayer. From page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find, and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
And we will go ahead and close out in our usual fashion as we do in this room. Since we can't stand around the table and hold hands with each other, what we do is we hold our hands up in the screen, and that's how we connect with each other, to pray with and to pray for each other. And we'll take a moment of silence for those still suffering inside and outside of these rooms, especially those who may die tonight, either because they haven't found their way to us, or because they found their way but they weren't quite ready. So a moment of silence followed by the Lord's Prayer. Thank you. And who brings us from shame to grace if we let Him?
Our Father,
Our Father, who art in heaven, be hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come,
Thy will be done on earth as it is in the heavens.
Give
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, folks.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Body.
Good night, everybody. Love you.
Thanks, Pickle Chips.
Bye.
Kitty, did you get that text I sent you?
You going to bed already, Terry?
He's already in bed.
I brought my cell phone tonight, so I don't have any connection or something. I don't know where it's at. But did you get the text I sent you, Kitty? Read it.